Jake Morrison wiped the sweat from his forehead as he finished checking the shuttle's engine. The year was 2287, and humans had been traveling through space for almost a century now. Jake was just an engineer, nothing special. He fixed things that broke on the exploration ship called Horizon's Dawn. It was a simple job, but he liked it. The ship's alarm suddenly blared through the hallways. Jake dropped his tools and ran toward the bridge. Captain Ryan Phillips stood there, staring at the main screen with wide eyes. "What's happening?" Jake asked. "Unknown ship," the captain said. "It's damaged and under attack." Jake looked at the screen. A beautiful silver ship floated in space, but smoke poured from its side. Small fighter ships circled around it like angry insects, firing red beams of energy. The silver ship fired back, but it was clearly losing the fight. "Can we help them?" Jake asked. Captain Phillips nodded. "We have to. It's the law of space." "But that ship is Valkyrian. They're one of the most powerful alien races in the galaxy." Jake had heard of the Valkyrians. They were tall, strong, and proud. Their empire controlled hundreds of star systems. Humans were still new to the galaxy, and many older alien races looked down on them. "The pirates are Shikari," said Dr. Emma Carter, the ship's science officer. "They attack anyone they think is weak." The Horizon's Dawn moved closer. Its weapons were small compared to military ships, but Captain Phillips ordered his crew to fire anyway. The Shikari fighters turned toward them, surprised by the human ship's arrival. "Their main engine is dying," Emma said. "Someone needs to go outside and repair it, or that ship will explode." Everyone turned to look at Jake. He was the best engineer on the ship. "I'll go," Jake said. His heart pounded in his chest, but he tried to sound calm. 10 minutes later, Jake floated in space wearing his protective suit. The battle raged around him. Energy blasts flew past, lighting up the darkness. He pushed himself toward the damaged Valkyrian ship, carrying his tools and repair kit. The hole in the ship's side was massive. Jake could see the engine inside, sparking and smoking. He knew what to do. But working while dodging weapons fire was different from fixing things in a safe workshop. A Shikari fighter noticed him. It turned and aimed its weapons. Jake's breath caught in his throat. He was going to die out here. But the Horizon's Dawn fired first. The fighter exploded in a ball of orange flame. Jake gave a quick thumbs up to his ship and got to work. Inside the Valkyrian vessel, Princess Lyria Velshar watched the human through the security cameras. She was beautiful by any standard, with purple-tinted skin and silver hair that flowed down her back. Her eyes were golden, and right now they were fixed on the small figure working on her ship's engine. "What is he doing?" she asked her guard, a massive warrior named Commander Valkyrian. "Repairing our engine, Your Highness," the commander said. "That human is risking his life for us." Lyria leaned closer to the screen. She had met many aliens before, but never a human. Her father, the Emperor, said humans were brave, but reckless. Looking at this one floating in space while weapons fired all around him, she thought her father might be right. "Why would he do this?" she whispered. "He doesn't even know us." Jake worked as fast as he could. His hands shook, but he forced them to stay steady. He rewired the main power line, sealed the broken fuel tube, and restarted the cooling system. It was messy work, but it should hold. The engine hummed to life. Lights flickered on across the Valkyrian ship. Jake felt a moment of pride before another Shikari fighter spotted him. This time, the Valkyrian ship saved him. A massive energy blast from its main cannon turned the fighter into dust. Jake grabbed onto the ship's hull as it began to move, its engine now working again. Together, the human and Valkyrian ships fought. The Shikari had expected an easy target. But now, they faced two opponents. One by one, the pirate fighters were destroyed or ran away. Soon, the battle was over. Jake made his way back to his shuttle, exhausted. His hands wouldn't stop shaking now that the danger was past. He had almost died at least 5 times. A message appeared on his suit's radio. "Human vessel. This is the Valkyrian ship Radiant Star. We thank you for your assistance. Princess Lyria Velshar requests the presence of the engineer who repaired our engine. Captain Phillips answered. We're honored, Radiant Star. Jake Morrison, that's you. They want to meet you. Jake's eyes went wide. A princess? He was just an engineer who liked fixing things. Why would royalty want to meet him? Don't worry, Emma said with a smile. Just be yourself. You saved their lives. They probably want to thank you. Properly. An hour later, Jake's shuttle docked with the Radiant Star. The door opened, and he stepped into a world he had never imagined. The Valkyrian ship was beautiful inside, all polished metal and glowing lights. Everything was bigger than on human ships, built for the tall Valkyrian people. 2 guards met him. They were both over 7 feet tall, wearing silver armor that seemed to shine with its own light. They didn't smile, but they bowed their heads to him, which Jake found strange. Follow us, one guard said in perfect English. They led him through long hallways. Other Valkyrians stopped to stare at him. Jake felt very small and very human. His work uniform looked shabby compared to their elegant clothes. Finally, they reached a large door. It opened, and Jake saw her. Princess Lyria stood in the center of a beautiful room. She was tall, at least 6.5 feet, but moved with a grace that made Jake think of dancers. Her golden eyes locked onto his, and Jake forgot how to breathe. You are Jake Morrison, she said. Her voice was soft but strong. Yes, Your Highness, Jake managed to say. He wasn't sure if he should bow, so he did. Lyria walked toward him. She studied his face like he was a puzzle she wanted to solve. You risked your life for my ship, she said. For people you don't know. Why? Jake thought about the question. Because you needed help, he said simply. That's what we do. Humans. When someone needs help, we try to help them. Lyria smiled for the first time. It transformed her face from merely beautiful to something that made Jake's heart skip. I have met many species, she said, but none quite like humans. You are either very brave or very foolish. Maybe both, Jake said, surprising himself with his honesty. Lyria laughed, a sound like music. I like you, Jake Morrison. I think we will be seeing each other again. She had no idea how right she was. The next 3 days were strange for Jake. Both ships were heading to Station Meridian, a huge space station where aliens from all over the galaxy came to trade and talk. Captain Phillips told Jake he would need to attend a formal reception on the Valkyrian ship. Jake had never been to anything formal in his life. Just don't insult anyone, Emma said, helping him put on his dress uniform. Valkyrians take honor very seriously. What if I say something wrong? Jake asked. Then smile and apologize, Emma said. You saved their princess. They'll forgive you. Jake hoped she was right. The reception room on the Radiant Star was enormous. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling, and the walls were decorated with gold patterns. At least 100 Valkyrians filled the room, all dressed in beautiful clothes that made Jake feel like a child wearing his father's suit. Princess Lyria stood on a raised platform at the far end of the room. She wore a dress that seemed to be made of liquid silver, and her hair was braided with jewels. When she saw Jake enter, she smiled and motioned for him to come forward. Jake walked through the crowd. The Valkyrians stared at him. Some looked curious. Others looked disgusted. He heard whispers in their language, though he didn't understand the words. Jake Morrison, Lyria said loudly, so everyone could hear. You honor us with your presence, Jake bowed, hoping he was doing it right. The honor is mine, Your Highness. Lyria stepped down from the platform and walked to him. She was even more beautiful up close. Tonight, we celebrate life, she said. My life, and the lives of my crew, all because of your courage. She took a glass from a servant and handed it to Jake. In Valkyrian culture, we toast to those who show great bravery. Tonight, we toast to you. The entire room raised their glasses. Jake felt his face turn red. He wasn't used to this kind of attention. After the toast, Valkyrian nobles came to speak with him. Most were polite, asking questions about Earth and human culture. But one noble, a tall man with scars across his face, looked at Jake with cold eyes. "So this is the human everyone speaks of," the scarred noble said. "He looks weak to me." The room went quiet. Jake felt everyone watching him. "Lord Karn," Lyria said, her voice sharp. "Jake Morrison is my guest. I meant no offense, Your Highness," Karn said. But his smile was cruel. "I only wonder what makes this human so special. Any Valkyrian warrior could have done what he did." Jake felt anger rise in his chest. But he remembered Emma's advice. He took a breath and smiled. "You're probably right," Jake said calmly. "A Valkyrian warrior would have done it faster and better." But there weren't any Valkyrian warriors outside the ship. There was only me. So I did what I could. Some Valkyrians laughed. Lord Karn's face turned dark with anger, but he couldn't say anything without looking worse. Lyria touched Jake's arm. "Walk with me," she said. She led him out of the reception room and through the ship. They walked in silence for a while, passing crew members who bowed as the princess went by. "You handled Lord Karn well," Lyria said finally. "Many would have fought him." "Fighting doesn't fix problems," Jake said. "It just makes new ones." "That is not how most Valkyrians think," Lyria said. "We are warriors. We solve problems with strength." "Is that what you think?" Jake asked. Lyria stopped walking and looked at him. "I don't know what I think anymore," she said softly. "Meeting you has made me question many things." They reached a large window that showed the stars outside. Lyria stood there, looking into space. "Tell me about Earth," she said. "What is it like?" Jake thought about home. "It's beautiful," he said. "Blue oceans, green forests, tall mountains. But it's also crowded and messy and complicated. Humans argue about everything. We don't always agree on the right way to do things." "But you work together anyway?" Lyria asked. "Most of the time," Jake said. "We're not perfect, but we try." "Valkyrians value perfection," Lyria said. "We value strength, honor, and following tradition. Sometimes I wonder if that's enough." Before Jake could answer, an explosion shook the ship. Alarms started blaring. Lyria's communicator beeped, and she answered it quickly. "Assassins in the engine room," a voice said. "3 intruders. They're trying to sabotage the main reactor." Lyria's face became hard. "I'm on my way." She started running, and Jake ran after her. Guards joined them as they rushed through the corridors. Jake's heart pounded. He wasn't a soldier. He didn't know how to fight. They reached the engine room to find chaos. 3 figures in black armor were fighting with the ship's guards. Energy weapons fired, and the smell of burning metal filled the air. One assassin turned and aimed at Lyria. Jake didn't think. He just moved, throwing himself in front of her. The energy blast hit his shoulder, and pain exploded through his body. He fell to the floor, his vision going dark at the edges. Lyria screamed something in her language. She pulled a weapon from her belt and fired. The assassin dropped. The other guards quickly captured the remaining 2 intruders. Jake tried to stay conscious, but the pain was too much. He felt Lyria's arms around him, lifting him. She was so strong. "Stay with me," she said. Her golden eyes were wide with fear. "Please, Jake, stay with me." "I'm okay," Jake tried to say, but the words came out wrong. He woke up in the medical bay. His shoulder hurt, but not as badly as before. Dr. Emma Carter was there, talking with a Valkyrian doctor. "He'll be fine," Emma said. "The blast wasn't deep. He was lucky. He was foolish," the Valkyrian doctor said. But there was respect in his voice. "Who jumps in front of an energy weapon?" "Jake does," Emma said with a smile. The door opened, and Lyria rushed in. She still wore her silver dress, but it was dirty now. She ran to Jake's bed and took his hand. "You saved my life," she said, again. "I couldn't let them hurt you," Jake said. His voice was weak, but he meant every word. "Why?" Lyria asked. "You barely know me. Why do you keep risking everything for me?" Jake looked into her golden eyes. He didn't have a good answer. He just knew that the thought of anything happening to her made his chest hurt worse than the energy blast. "Because I care about you," he said simply. Lyria's eyes filled with tears. In Valkyrian culture, crying was considered weak, but she didn't seem to care. She held Jake's hand tighter. "The assassins were from House Drakkar," she said. "They oppose my father's peace treaties with younger races. They tried to kill me to stop those treaties." "Will there be more?" Jake asked. "Probably," Lyria said. "But now I have you to protect me." She smiled through her tears. "My father once told me that the greatest warriors are those who fight not for glory, but for others. I never understood what he meant until now." She stayed by his bed all night. When Jake woke the next morning, she was still there, her head resting on the edge of his bed, her hand still holding his. Jake realized something that scared him more than any assassin. He was falling in love with an alien princess. And judging by the way she looked at him, she might be falling for him too. Station Meridian was the biggest thing Jake had ever seen. It was like a small city floating in space, with docking ports for hundreds of ships. Aliens of all kinds walked through its corridors. Jake saw species he had only read about in books, but he barely noticed any of it. His mind was on the meeting happening in 1 hour. "Try to relax," Captain Phillips said. "You look like you're going to be sick." "I might be," Jake admitted. They sat in a waiting room near the station's diplomatic center. Dr. Emma Carter paced back and forth. A woman in an expensive suit sat across from them. She was Ambassador Kate Sullivan, sent from Earth to handle this situation. "Let me explain this one more time," Kate said. "By saving Princess Lyria's life twice, you've invoked something called the debt of life. It's an old Valkyrian custom. When someone saves a royal's life, that royal is honor-bound to repay them." "So she'll give me a reward?" Jake asked. "Some money, or a medal?" "It's more complicated than that," Kate said. "Princess Lyria has announced she wants to perform the Kelsora ceremony. That means she wants to formally claim you as her bonded protector." Jake stared at her. "What does that mean?" "It means you would leave your ship and join her household," Kate explained. "You would swear to protect her, and she would swear to honor you. It's like marriage, but not quite. It's more like becoming part of her family." "Can he refuse?" Captain Phillips asked. Kate's face was serious. "He can. But refusing a royal Valkyrian's gratitude is considered a terrible insult. It could damage relations between Earth and the Valkyrian Empire." "So I have to agree?" Jake asked. "No," Kate said. "But the choice will affect more than just you." Jake put his head in his hands. A week ago, he was just an engineer. Now, the fate of diplomatic relations rested on his shoulders. "What do you want to do?" Emma asked gently. That was the question, wasn't it? Jake thought about Lyria. The way she smiled. The way she looked at the stars. The way she had stayed by his bed all night. Holding his hand. "I want to see her," Jake said. They let him visit Lyria in her quarters on the station. The room was beautiful, decorated with Valkyrian art and furniture. Lyria stood by the window, looking out at the stars like she had on her ship. "Jake," she said, turning to face him. "I'm glad you came. We need to talk about this ceremony," Jake said. Lyria nodded. "I know what you must be thinking, that I'm forcing you into this, that I'm using politics to keep you near me. Are you?" Jake asked. "Yes," Lyria said honestly. "But not only for politics. Jake, in my entire life, I have never met anyone like you. Most people see me as the princess first, and a person second. You see me as just Lyria. You don't care about my title or my power. You risked your life for me because you cared about me." She walked toward him. "I know this is fast. I know we barely know each other. But I want you in my life. Not as a servant or a guard, but as my equal. As my partner." "Your people won't accept that," Jake said. "I heard what Lord Karn said. Many Valkyrians think humans are weak. Then we'll prove them wrong," Lyria said. She took his hands. "I'm not asking you to stop being human. I'm asking you to stand beside me, as we show the galaxy that strength comes in many forms. Jake looked into her golden eyes. He saw hope there, and fear, and something that might have been love. "What if I fail you?" he asked quietly. "What if you don't?" Lyria said. "Jake, I'm terrified too. But I would rather be terrified with you than safe without you." Before Jake could answer, alarms blared through the station. Lyria's communicator beeped urgently. "Your Highness," a voice said. "We have a situation. Multiple armed intruders heading toward the diplomatic center. They're targeting the ceremony location." How many?" Lyria asked. "At least 20. They're well armed and organized." Lyria looked at Jake. "Someone really doesn't want this ceremony to happen." They ran through the station corridors. Security guards rushed past them, heading toward the diplomatic center. Jake's shoulder still hurt from the last attack, but he ignored the pain. They reached the grand hall where the ceremony was supposed to take place. It was chaos. Armed figures in black armor were everywhere, fighting with station security. Energy blasts filled the air. "We need to get you somewhere safe," Jake said. "No," Lyria said firmly. "This is my ceremony. I won't run from it." She pulled out her weapon and fired at the nearest attacker. Jake didn't have a weapon, so he did what he did best. He looked for solutions. The hall's main power conduit ran along the ceiling. If he could overload it, the explosion would disable the attacker's electronic weapons and armor, but he would need to get to the control panel on the other side of the room. "Cover me," Jake said to Lyria. "What are you doing?" she asked. "Trust me," Jake said. He ran. Lyria fired her weapon, keeping the attackers away from him. Jake dodged and weaved through the fighting. An energy blast nearly hit his head. Another burned the floor at his feet. He reached the control panel and started working. His hands moved quickly, rewiring circuits and redirecting power. The panel sparked and smoked, but he kept going. "Jake, behind you," Lyria screamed. Jake turned to see an attacker right behind him, weapon raised. He was going to die, but Lyria threw herself between them. Her armor absorbed most of the blast, but she fell to the ground. The attacker aimed again. Something broke inside Jake. He grabbed a piece of broken metal from the floor and swung it. The attacker's helmet cracked, and the man fell. Jake finished the rewiring and slammed his hand on the activation button. The power conduit exploded in a shower of sparks. Every electronic device in the room shut down. The attacker's weapons and armor went dead. Now it was a fair fight. Station security, no longer facing energy weapons, quickly overpowered the intruders. Jake ran to Lyria. She was getting up, her armor scorched but intact. "Are you okay?" he asked, helping her stand. "I'm fine," she said. "That was clever. Very human. You saved me again," Jake said. "We saved each other," Lyria corrected. Commander Velkarian and more guards arrived. They secured the hall and started arresting the attackers. One of the prisoners was Lord Karn, the noble who had insulted Jake at the reception. "I should have known," Lyria said coldly. "You dishonor our people," Karn spat at her. "Bonding with this weak human. You shame the royal bloodline." "The only shame here is yours," Lyria said. "You attacked innocents. You broke the laws of hospitality. You are no warrior. You're a coward." She turned away from him. "Take him to the cells." More people arrived. Captain Phillips, Emma, Ambassador Kate, and dozens of Velkarian nobles who had come for the ceremony. The grand hall was damaged, but it was still standing. "The ceremony," Lyria said. "Can we still do it?" An old Velkarian priest stepped forward. "The hall has been blessed by combat. It is more fitting now than before." Lyria looked at Jake. "Are you ready?" Jake thought about everything that had happened. The attacks, the danger, the political pressure. Then he thought about Lyria. Her courage, her kindness. The way she saw him as an equal. "Yes," Jake said. "I'm ready." The ceremony was simple. Jake and Lyria stood in the center of the damaged hall, surrounded by witnesses from a dozen different species. The priest spoke words in ancient Velkarian that Jake didn't understand. Then Lyria stepped forward. She enfolded her arms around Jake, holding him close. She spoke in English so he would understand. I claim you, Jake Morrison, not as my servant, but as my equal. Not as my property, but as my partner. I claim you as mine, and I give myself as yours. From this day forward, we walk the stars together. Jake felt tears in his eyes. He wrapped his arms around her, holding her just as tightly. I accept, he said. I'm yours, Lyria. And you're mine. The hall erupted in cheers. Some Valkyrians looked unhappy, but many more clapped and celebrated. The humans in attendance were crying. As Lyria held Jake, he realized his life had changed forever. He was bonded to an alien princess. The galaxy would never see him as just an engineer again. But looking into Lyria's golden eyes, Jake didn't care. He had found something he never expected among the stars. He had found home. 3 months had passed since the ceremony. Jake stood on the balcony of Lyria's palace on Velkar Prime, the Valkyrian homeworld, and tried to believe this was his life now. The palace was enormous, built from white stone that seemed to glow in the sunlight. Gardens stretched as far as Jake could see, filled with alien plants in colors Earth didn't have. In the distance, the capital city rose into the sky with towers taller than any human building. You're thinking too much again, Lyria said, joining him on the balcony. I'm always thinking, Jake said with a smile. It's what humans do. It's what you do, Lyria corrected. She wore simpler clothes now, not the formal dresses she had to wear in public. Jake liked her better this way. More relaxed. Life on Velkar Prime was strange. The palace staff treated Jake with respect, but he knew many of them didn't understand why their princess had bonded with an alien. Some Valkyrians still called him the pet human when they thought he couldn't hear. The Valkyrian court was even worse. Every week, Lyria had to attend meetings with the Council of Houses, and Jake went with her. The nobles stared at him like he was a strange animal. Some asked insulting questions. Others just ignored him completely. But there were good moments too. Lyria was teaching him the Valkyrian language, and he was slowly learning. He had made friends with some of the younger guards who were curious about human culture, and every evening, he and Lyria would sit together and talk about everything and nothing. The council wants to meet with you today, Lyria said, her voice careful. Jake's good mood disappeared. What do they want now? They want you to prove your worth, Lyria said. Lord Vex has challenged your position as my bonded protector. He says you're too weak to serve at my side. Another challenge, Jake said tiredly. That's the third one this month. I know, Lyria said. She touched his face gently. You don't have to accept. I can refuse it for you. And look weak? Jake asked. No. I'll face him. The council chamber was a massive room with high ceilings and stone pillars. The Council of Houses sat in a half-circle, 20 of the most powerful Valkyrians in the Empire. At the center sat Emperor Zor Khan, Lyria's father. The Emperor was huge, even for a Valkyrian, with silver hair and scars from countless battles. He watched Jake with intelligent eyes that missed nothing. Jake Morrison, Lord Vex said, standing from his seat. He was younger than most of the council. Muscular and confident. I challenge your right to stand beside Princess Lyria. Face me in combat, and prove you deserve your position. I accept, Jake said. His voice was steady, even though his heart was racing. Wait, Lyria said. Father, this is unnecessary. Jake has already proven himself. Has he? Emperor Zorkan asked. His voice was deep and calm. Let the human choose how he wishes to face this challenge. Lord Vex offers combat. But that is not the only way to prove worth. Jake understood what the Emperor was offering. A way out. A different kind of test. I'll face him, Jake said. But not with weapons. I challenge Lord Vex to a contest of strategy. We'll each plan a defense of the palace against a theoretical attack. The council will judge whose plan is better. The chamber went silent. Valkyrians valued strength, but they also valued clever thinking. It was a bold move. Lord Vex laughed. You want to play games instead of fight? This proves you're weak. Scared you might lose? Jake asked calmly. Vex's face turned dark. Agreed. Tomorrow. We'll see how clever you really are. That night, Jake barely slept. He studied maps of the palace and the surrounding city. He thought about everything he knew about Valkyrian military tactics and how humans would approach the same problem differently. Lyria brought him food and sat with him while he worked. "You didn't have to do this," she said quietly. "Yes, I did," Jake said. "If I keep avoiding these challenges, they'll never respect me. I need to prove I belong here." "You do belong here," Lyria said firmly. "You belong with me." The next day, the council chamber was packed. Word had spread about the challenge, and everyone wanted to watch. Lord Vex presented his plan first. It was aggressive and strong, using the palace guards in traditional formations. It was a good plan, exactly what a Valkyrian warrior would design. Then it was Jake's turn. "Lord Vex's plan is good," Jake said. "But it has a weakness. It assumes the enemy will attack directly, like Valkyrians do. What if they don't?" He pulled up a holographic map of the palace. "Humans learned long ago that the strongest fortress can fall if you think differently. Instead of meeting force with force, I would use the palace itself." Jake showed his plan. He had designed a defense that used the palace's gardens, water systems, and even the decorative fountains as weapons. He had found weak points no one knew existed and suggested how to fix them. He had created escape routes and safe rooms using spaces the palace architects hadn't considered. "This is not warriors' thinking," Lord Vex said dismissively. "No," Jake agreed. "It's survivors' thinking. And survivors win wars that warriors start." The council debated for an hour. Some loved Jake's plan, others hated it because it was too different. In the end, Emperor Zorkon stood. "Both plans have merit," he said. "But Jake Morrison's plan shows something we Valkyrians sometimes forget. There are many kinds of strength. The strength to fight is important, but so is the strength to think, to adapt, to see problems from new angles." He looked at Jake directly. "You have proven your worth, not by becoming Valkyrian, but by staying human. That perspective is valuable." Challenge rejected. Lord Vex looked furious, but he couldn't argue with the Emperor. Jake felt relief wash over him. After the meeting, Emma and Captain Phillips arrived on Velkar Prime for a visit. It was wonderful to see familiar faces. "Look at you," Emma said, hugging Jake. "Living in a palace with a princess. I never thought you'd end up here." "Respian. I'll describe." "Neither did I," Jake admitted. They walked through the palace gardens while Jake showed them around. It felt good to speak English and talk about Earth. "How are things back home?" Jake asked. Captain Phillips and Emma exchanged a look. "There's trouble," Phillips said. "The Shikari have united under a new leader. They're attacking human colonies and Valkyrian outposts. It's getting bad." "The council is worried," Emma added. "They're talking about forming an alliance, bringing together multiple species to fight the Shikari. But old prejudices are making it difficult. No one wants to work together." Jake felt a familiar worry. "How bad is it?" "Bad enough that Earth is sending diplomats to meet with the Valkyrian Emperor," Philip said. "They want to discuss a joint military response." That evening, Jake told Lyria what he had learned. "I know," she said. "My father has been in meetings all week. The Shikari are hitting targets across the sector. If we don't stop them soon, they'll grow too strong." "What can we do?" Jake asked. Lyria smiled. "We can be what we've always been. A bridge between our peoples. Jake, you and I represent something new. A human and a Valkyrian working together as equals. That's what the galaxy needs right now." 2 days later, the Emperor summoned them both. "I have a task for you," Zorkon said. "The alliance talks are failing. The human diplomats and Valkyrian generals don't trust each other. They need someone who understands both sides." He looked at Lyria and Jake. "I'm putting you in charge of a joint task force. Humans and Valkyrians working together to fight the Shikari. If you can make it work, you'll prove that cooperation between species is possible." "Father," That's a huge responsibility, Lyria said. I know, the Emperor said. But I've watched you both. You've already proven you can work together. Now prove it to the galaxy. Jake and Lyria looked at each other. This was bigger than palace politics or council challenges. This was a chance to actually make a difference. We'll do it, Jake said. Lyria took his hand. Together, the Emperor nodded. Good. You leave in 3 days. Captain Phillips and Commander Velkarian will serve as your seconds. You'll have ships, troops, and resources. But success or failure will depend on whether you can unite humans and Velkarians into one team. As they left the throne room, Jake felt excited and terrified at the same time. 3 months ago, he was just an engineer. Now he was leading a mission that could determine the fate of 2 civilizations. Lyria squeezed his hand. Scared? She asked. Absolutely, Jake said. Good, Lyria said. So am I. But we'll face it together, like we face everything. That night, as they prepared for the mission, Jake realized something important. He had spent months trying to prove he belonged on Velkar Prime. But maybe that was never the point. He belonged wherever Lyria was. And she belonged wherever he was. The galaxy was about to learn what a human and a Velkarian could do when they worked together. Jake just hoped they were ready for it. The joint task force was a disaster in the first week. Jake stood on the bridge of their command ship, the Unity, and watched human and Velkarian officers argue about everything. They couldn't agree on tactics, formations, or even which star system to defend first. This isn't working, Captain Phillips said quietly. It has to work, Jake said. But he didn't know how to make it happen. The humans thought the Velkarians were too aggressive and reckless. The Velkarians thought the humans were too cautious and weak. Every meeting ended in shouting. Every mission briefing turned into a debate. Lyria was having the same problems with her people. Commander Velkarian respected her. But the other Velkarian officers kept questioning why they should listen to strategies that came from humans. On the 8th day, the Shikari attacked a mining colony. By the time the task force arrived, half the colony was destroyed. They saved the other half. But barely. Too many people died because the task force couldn't coordinate properly. That night, Jake found Lyria standing alone in the observation room, staring at the stars. We failed them, she said softly. I know, Jake said. He put his arm around her. But we'll do better. Will we? Lyria asked. Jake. Maybe my father was wrong. Maybe humans and Velkarians can't work together. Maybe the differences are too big. No, Jake said firmly. Look at us. We're different, but we make it work. We're different, Lyria agreed. But we trust each other. They don't. Jake realized she was right. That was the real problem. Trust. The next morning, Jake called a meeting of all senior officers, both human and Velkarian. 20 people crowded into the conference room, most of them looking annoyed at having to be there. We're failing, Jake said bluntly. People are dying because we can't work together. We could work together if the Velkarians would listen to reason, said Commander Lisa Brown, a human tactical officer. We could work together if humans weren't so afraid to fight, shot back a Velkarian captain. Enough, Lyria said, her voice cut through the argument. Jake is right. We're failing, and it's because we don't trust each other. She looked around the room. How many of you have actually talked to someone from the other species? Not about work, but just talked? Silence. Jake realized that humans and Velkarians ate in different mess halls, slept in different quarters, and spent their free time apart. Here's what we're going to do, Jake said. Starting tonight, all meals will be mixed. Humans and Velkarians eat together. We're also reassigning quarters. Each human will bunk with a Velkarian roommate. That's ridiculous, someone said. No, Commander Velkarian said, standing. It's smart. We cannot work together in battle if we are strangers off the battlefield. Captain Phillips nodded. I agree. We'll make it an order. It was uncomfortable at first. Humans and Velkarians struggled to find common ground. But slowly, things changed. They discovered they both loved games and started playing together. They shared stories about their homes. They learned to laugh at the same jokes. 2 weeks later, everything was different. The task force wasn't perfect, but they were learning to combine human creativity with Valkyrian strength. They started winning battles. Then came the message. The Shikari were planning a major attack on Outpost 7, an important supply station that served both human and Valkyrian colonies. If it fell, dozens of worlds would be cut off. "We have 3 days," Jake said, studying the tactical display. "They're bringing everything they have. At least 50 ships. We have 20, Philip said. "This isn't good." "Then we don't fight them head-on," Jake said. "We think like humans and fight like Valkyrians." He explained his plan. It was risky. It required perfect timing and trust between every ship in the fleet. One mistake, and they would all die. "It's insane," Commander Brown said, but she was smiling. "I love it." The Valkyrians were less enthusiastic until Lyria spoke up. "This is exactly what Jake does best. He sees solutions no one else sees. Trust him." The night before the battle, Jake couldn't sleep. He walked through the ship, checking on the crew. He found humans and Valkyrians playing cards together. Others were sharing family photos. Some were just talking quietly about their fears and hopes. This was what they had built. Not just a military force, but a real team. Lyria found him in the engine room, where he always went when he was worried. "You're nervous," she said. "If this plan fails, a lot of people will die," Jake said. "And it will be my fault." "If this plan succeeds, a lot of people will live," Lyria countered. "And it will be because of you." She took his hands. "Jake, when I first saw you through my ship's monitors, I thought you were just another foolish human. But you've shown me that wisdom comes in many forms. Your way of thinking, your human way, is just as valid as the Valkyrian way. Maybe more so." "I love you," Jake said. The words surprised him, but they felt right. Lyria's eyes went wide. Then she smiled, more beautifully than Jake had ever seen. "I love you too," she said. "I think I have since you first risked your life for me." They kissed, and for a moment, Jake forgot about the coming battle. There was only Lyria, and the feeling that he had found where he truly belonged. The battle started at dawn. The Shikari fleet arrived exactly when expected, 50 ships ready to destroy Outpost 7. But the Unity and its fleet weren't at the outpost. They were hiding in an asteroid field nearby, waiting. The Shikari attacked the outpost, which appeared to be defended by only 3 ships, easy targets. The entire enemy fleet moved in for the kill. "Now," Jake said calmly. The Unity and 17 other ships burst from the asteroid field. But they didn't attack the Shikari fleet directly. Instead, they went after the supply ships in the rear, the ones carrying fuel and ammunition. The Shikari fleet turned to face this new threat, abandoning their attack on the outpost. That's when the 3 defensive ships at the outpost revealed themselves to be packed with explosives. They flew into the middle of the Shikari formation and detonated. Chaos. The Shikari fleet was scattered, damaged, and confused. Now the Unity's fleet attacked in earnest, human pilots using tricky maneuvers to confuse their enemies, while Valkyrian gunners took precise shots at vulnerable targets. It was brutal and fast. The Shikari, expecting an easy victory, found themselves in a nightmare. Half their ships were destroyed in the first 10 minutes. The rest tried to flee, but the task force was ready for that too. When the battle ended, 43 Shikari ships were destroyed or captured. The task force lost only 2 ships, and most of their crews survived. The galaxy noticed. News of the victory spread quickly. A joint human-Valkyrian force, led by a princess and an engineer, had defeated an enemy that had terrorized the sector for months. More importantly, they had proven that cooperation between species could work. 3 months after the battle, Jake and Lyria stood in the Grand Throne Room on Velkar Prime. Emperor Zorkon had called for a celebration, and representatives from dozens of worlds had come. "You have done well," the Emperor told them. "You have shown the galaxy something it desperately needed to see. That our differences make us stronger, not weaker." Earth's president, Laura Chen, was there too, transmitted via hologram. "We are forming a permanent alliance," she announced. "The Terran-Velkarian Coalition. Together, we will protect our people and work toward a better future." The crowd cheered. Jake looked around and saw humans and Velkarians celebrating together. The same people who couldn't stand each other a few months ago were now friends. That evening, there was a private ceremony. Much smaller than the political celebrations, but more important to Jake, Lyria wore a beautiful white dress that combined human and Velkarian styles. Jake wore formal clothes from both cultures too. They stood in the palace garden, surrounded only by their closest friends and family. "This is a wedding," Emma explained to the Velkarian guests. "A human ceremony where two people promise to be together forever." "We already had our bonding," Lyria said. "But Jake wanted this too. So we do both. Velkarian and human. Because that's what we are." They exchanged vows, mixing human and Velkarian traditions. When the ceremony ended, Lyria enfolded her arms around Jake one more time. "You are mine," she said. "And you are mine," Jake replied. It was just like their bonding ceremony months ago. But everything had changed. Back then, they barely knew each other. Now, they had fought together, struggled together, and built something new together. Later that night, they stood on their balcony, looking at the stars. The same stars Jake used to look at from Earth, wondering what was out there. "Do you miss your old life?" Lyria asked. "Sometimes," Jake admitted. "I miss the simplicity. When I was just an engineer who fixed things." "You still fix things," Lyria said with a smile. "You just fix bigger problems now." Jake laughed. "I guess that's true." "Regrets?" Lyria asked quietly. Jake thought about everything that had happened. The danger, the challenges, the times he thought he might die. Then he thought about Lyria. The way she looked at him. The way she trusted him. The way she had changed his entire world. "Not one," Jake said. He pulled her close. "You claimed me as yours. And it was the best thing that ever happened to me." "We claimed each other," Lyria corrected. "That's the real secret. Not that I claimed you, but that we chose each other." They stood there, holding each other, looking at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Unity was on patrol. Its human and Velkarian crew working together. Somewhere out there, more species were learning that cooperation was better than conflict. And it had all started because an alien princess had enfolded her arms around a human and claimed him as her own. Jake smiled. His life hadn't turned out anything like he planned. He had expected to be an engineer his whole life, quietly fixing ships and living in the background. Instead, he had found adventure, purpose, and love beyond anything he imagined. He had helped bring two civilizations together. He had proven that being different didn't mean being lesser. Most importantly, he had found Lyria. His princess, his partner, his home among the stars. "What are you thinking?" Lyria asked. "That I'm the luckiest man in the galaxy," Jake said. "You're not lucky," Lyria said. "You're brave and kind and clever. That's why I chose you." "Then I'm lucky you chose me," Jake said. Lyria laughed and kissed him. Below them, the city glowed with lights. Above them, the stars shone bright. And between them, Jake and Lyria held each other, ready to face whatever the future brought. Together. Always together. The end.